If you want to start practicing OMAD, but you're not sure where to start, this video is for you. So I lost 80 pounds, and the main thing that helped me do that was OMAD, eating 1 meal a day. It's also the thing that has helped me maintain in a healthy BMI for years and years now. This way of eating is super simple. It's barely a strategy, but yet a lot of people have a lot of questions about how to actually get started with it. And so in this video, I'm just going to take you through how I got to OMAD, and I'm also going to give you some optional strategies you can use to just make it easier. So first, let's define, what do I mean when I say OMAD? Because here on the internet, people have different definitions, but I keep it very simple. When I say OMAD, I mean it literally. You eat 1 meal a day, and that's it. Like there are no snacks. There are no windows like with traditional intermittent fasting. You don't say I eat just from this time to this time. It's just you eat 1 meal a day, and for me that meal is supper. But certainly you can have your OMAD at any particular meal you want to have it at. So what does an actual OMAD look like? Well, for me, I just eat whatever my family's eating. So that might be tacos, pizza, roasted chicken and broccoli. It could be anything. I have no restrictions on any kind of food groups or anything like that. I eat dessert if I want it. I drink wine if I want it. And there's no other kind of restriction other than you're eating just that 1 meal. And actually that is one of the biggest tips I can give you if you're wanting to practice OMAD. Let one of your rules be that you get to eat exactly what you want at your OMAD, that you don't try to combine this with like keto or combine it with calorie counting or count, like low carb or anything like that. Because the thing is, this in and of itself, this eating 1 meal a day is a pretty big restriction. And so combining it with further restriction usually doesn't work out very well. And another big benefit of letting yourself eat whatever you want at your 1 meal is that it will provide you the motivation you need to continue fasting during the day. Because look, if you try to tell yourself, okay, you can only eat 1 meal a day, and then on top of that, you have to eat food that you don't really like, it's going to be really hard to motivate yourself to do that over the long term. So then how do you actually get yourself to OMAD? Because if you look at your life right now, if you're like most Americans, you are probably eating throughout the day. You probably wake up and you have breakfast, and then maybe you snack a little bit during your morning time, and then you have lunch, and then maybe you snack a little bit in the afternoon time, and then you have supper, and then maybe you like sit down in front of the TV and you have more snacks. That's pretty typical. And that was certainly what my life looked like back in 2014 when I was obese. The first thing I did was to form my first time boundary around food. I looked at my life and I realized like, okay, I'm snacking until like midnight, and I'm eating, first thing in the morning, and that's not really regulated. So I decided, okay, I'm not gonna eat past 10 p.m. and I won't eat my first food until 6 a.m. Now, that's just 8 hours. That's an 8-hour window where I wasn't eating. But that was something that was actually challenging for me. And so then I just started pushing breakfast a little bit later. So like I kept that cutoff time at 10 p.m., but I would say like, okay, I think I can like wait until 6:15 today. And then after a while, I think I can make it to 6:45. I think I can make it to 7:15. And then on till eventually you'll find that your first meal is actually lunch. You just keep pushing breakfast until, you have a late breakfast, and then it turns into lunch. And so then at that point, you're at 2 meals a day. Now you can, while you're doing this, and I think it's probably a good idea actually, give yourself whatever you need during that period of time. So maybe it's 2 meals. I think 2 meals is a good idea, but you might do like 2 meals and a snack. Really is what works well for your life. The idea is you want this to always feel really easy, very doable. Now, a word on snacks. One thing I found for myself that a lot of times when I wanted to snack, it was actually emotional eating in disguise. So that's just something to be aware of. If you find that you're wanting to snack all the time, it might just be because you're bored or upset about something. So then once you've gotten to 2 meals a day, the idea is you just push lunch out a little bit later and a little bit later and a little bit later. So once I got to the point where I was basically eating 2 meals a day with just an occasional snack, I kept pushing my first meal out until it got to the point where the meals were so close that it wasn't much of a leap. It was like I went from, having like a 4-hour window there where I was eating to just eating 1 meal a day. And that felt easy because by that time, I was pretty good at fasting. And that's the thing. That's the thing to remember about this whole journey is that you are building your fasting muscle as you go along. Every time you push it out a little bit further, that first meal out a little bit further, you're getting a little bit better at fasting. And over time, fasting just becomes this thing that's easy. It's like second nature. Eventually, it can become your normal. Like for me, it's normal to just eat 1 meal a day. I should mention right now, because I didn't mention it before, I always take a day off from OMAD every week. I've got a whole video on that I'll link to up above if you're interested. When you're actually ready to make the leap to OMAD, you can do it a couple different ways. You can either just leap. Like if you feel really confident and it's like, yeah, I think I can do that. It's like not a big deal. Then you can try that. But you might want to go a little bit more gradually than that and decide to do like a snack instead of like a full meal as your first food, and then have your main meal a little bit later, and then eventually just eliminate the snack. But really going gradually, just go gradually. Be really, really patient with yourself. Be patient with the process. That's really the key. If you do that, if you just go gradually, this is always going to feel easy. It's always going to feel really doable, and you'll be fine. The mistake a lot of people make is they try to be really aggressive with this. And when you go really aggressive with something, it's just difficult to maintain that momentum. So what you're doing in effect is you're unnecessarily increasing the difficulty, which then makes it harder to stick with. Slow and steady wins the race. When you're trying to figure out like how aggressive to be, in other words, like maybe right now you're eating at 10 o'clock and then how many hours should you try to go? I would just say err on the side of being a little bit too conservative with it. In other words, think about your absolute worst day. Could you do this plan that you're currently doing on your worst day? And if you can, then that's good. But if you think, well, yeah, on my best day, I could definitely do this plan, then you're being too aggressive, because the fact is life is hard. It's going to like throw curveballs at you, and you want to be able to be consistent. Consistency with your plan is far better than hurrying up and getting to OMAD. Because you'll eventually get there. If you're just really consistent and you just say, I'll get there eventually, you're going to be in a really good place because you're going to be really good at fasting. You're going to have learned consistency and discipline. And that leads to weight loss and also really good results in maintenance. Speaking of maintenance, if you have hit your goal weight or you're getting close to it, be sure to check out my book, The Laid Back Guide to Weight Loss Maintenance. In this book, I tell you all the things I've learned on my journey since I hit my first goal weight back in 2016. But if you're always in the rushing mindset and you're not thinking about permanent changes that you can make and sustainable results, you're gonna just have a hard time. Speaking as someone who used to rush all the time. Now, could you succeed just jumping right to OMAD? Sure, some people do it. But the much more common thing I've heard from people as long as I've been doing this channel is whenever they've tried to go too hard with this, it becomes too hard and they quit. But when they just go gradually with it and they just do it as they feel ready and they make sure that they're being consistent, they have much better results. Now, here's a really big challenge that comes with OMAD. As you push your first food out later and later and later, you are going to find yourself with a lot of time on your hands. It's going to be a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. You're going to get bored. You're going to want to eat because you're just like, I want to eat. And it's going to maybe even feel like hunger, but it's not. It's just boredom. And I'm going to link to a great video that explains why boredom is so helpful and important. The best advice I can give you for learning how to deal with all that boredom is to fill up your life with things other than food. Like use it to work more, or to play with your kids more, or to learn new skills, or read books, or to pray, or to just cultivate a hobby or do volunteer work. There's tons of stuff out there that can really make your life a lot richer than just eating. Now, like I mentioned, I love OMAD. It is my chosen way to eat. If I'm just left to my own devices, that's what I do. But I do make allowances all the time for just living with other people and being a human being on this earth. There are times where I don't practice OMAD. If I'm in a situation, a social situation where the thing is we're eating, I eat and I don't worry about it. But at the same time, this way of life has really given me a lot of perspective on my relationship with food. It really improved it because it showed me when I was using food for the wrong reasons. And by the way, food tastes amazing when you practice OMAD. Even food that you don't really think of as having much of a taste right now, if you just eat one meal a day, it all tastes good, except for maybe lima beans. In fact, I've got a whole video that I did about the benefits of OMAD, and I'll link to that above too. So I hope you found this video helpful. Remember, the important thing about weight loss is that you figure out that plan that works for your life. OMAD's not for everybody. And if you find after, trying to implement it in your life, it's just not working, that's okay. Just keep going until you figure out what will work in your life. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below.